Throughout my career, I've made just shy of $10 million all through creating content on YouTube. I once started with $0, was flat broke at the age of 9 years old when I first got started, to now where we are today. I'm gonna run you through the entire process to how this happened, what decisions I made that made large pivots in my career, but more importantly, how you can recreate it too and give you everything that I absolutely know, starting from the very beginning. At a very young age, I was very obsessed with seeing myself on the big fat TVs that they used to have back in like 2004. I would steal my parents' VHS tape and want to record VHSs and put them on the TV. They were never posted anywhere, but I just thought it was cool. Little did I realize that was actually the thing that I ended up loving to do, which was becoming a YouTuber. Now, around the age of 8 to 9 years old, I was begging my parents to let me create a YouTube channel. Now, YouTube back when I was 8 or 9 years old was nothing like what it is right now. In fact, I think the platform had only been around for a year or two at the time. And this was back when likes and dislikes weren't thumbs up or thumbs down. They were actually through a 5-star rating system based on how much you enjoyed the video. Now, it took a lot of convincing to let my parents let me create a YouTube account because my dad's biggest concern was me being scooped up by a creepy old man. Valid concern, I'll give him that. Eventually, after a lot of persuasion, they let me create my very first YouTube channel. Now, for the first 6 years, I was just making videos. The one thing that I will tell you about my first journey on YouTube was I never stopped uploading. YouTube as a platform back then was not a monetization path. It wasn't something where when you signed up, you knew you were gonna be able to make money. In fact, the partner program didn't even start for many years after I had started. So making money on YouTube was just simply not a thing back then. When I was making videos, I never went a single week without uploading at least 3 videos. Now, what would I upload exactly? It'd be a bunch of random stuff. I pretty much just watched what everybody else on the platform was doing and what was getting views, and I would just copy it because that's all I knew. I would make skits, I would make funny memes, I would make reaction videos almost like Ray William Johnson back in the day. I pretty much uploaded anything, but this is where things changed. You see, on this channel, I always tell you how data is very important, and which is also why I'm a very big believer in quantity over quality in the beginning, because you need data to be able to make better decisions. Now, at the time, I only had 600 videos in the bank already uploaded on my channel. Now, I probably had not even touched a video that had over 100,000 views at the time, but I had a lot of data. And in that mixture of 600 videos I uploaded were vlogs, reactions, and there was also gaming videos. Now, those gaming videos were clear outliers. They performed better than the other ones, and honestly, I was a gamer at heart, so I naturally enjoyed making them. This is when I decided to make a full-blown pivot to only uploading gaming videos because that what was working well. Unintentionally, this was the best decision I ever made because that has what led me to where I am today, being a gaming creator. Now, this was back probably in 2012 when I made that pivot towards gaming content and I started making Minecraft YouTube videos. At the time, it was Hunger Games, survival games, mini games, all that sort of stuff. At some point, I found myself in the roleplay niche. Now, pause, I don't mean that in a weird way. I mean more so like a short film. Now, what I mean by this is we were making short films around popular subject titles, like popular movies or popular series. In my case, was The Walking Dead, but reimagined into Minecraft called The Crafting Dead. Now, I actually got started in The Crafting Dead making my own series, and I had reached out and tweeted a larger YouTuber at the time who was making similar videos because I was inspired to make my own, and he actually invited me to join his series. Now, at the time, I maybe had 5,000 subscribers. He had 200,000 subscribers. That was the craziest thing I've ever seen before. I literally remember that same day, I was actually crying in my bed because all I ever wanted was to be a YouTuber, and I felt like this was the first step towards making that happen. Shout out to Nick, SGC Barbarian. He's the absolute GOAT. Still to this day, he's the absolute GOAT. When I got invited to this series, I started to learn a lot, not only about YouTube, but how other creators do things, but I also began to learn about the ecosystem of creators. I was invited to go to a convention in Florida by Nick, which was called ArcadiaCon. Now, ArcadiaCon was the biggest eye-opener for me. Not that I learned any information that was crazy and I didn't know before, but I was able to meet people that I actually felt like-minded with. These were other creators, these were other people that cared about the same thing I cared about, and I wasn't judged for doing what I was doing. Back home, when I told people I make Minecraft roleplay videos, I always got that weird, ugh. Whereas when I was with these people, they all agreed and they all resonated because they were doing something similar. It wasn't a judgmental environment. In fact, it's actually the thing that pushed me to become better. Because at that same convention is where I met my two best friends, George and Nathan. Now, George and Nathan, I've known these guys for well over a decade. They're still my best friends to this day. In fact, Nathan and I co-own Blueprint Premium together, where we are running the largest creator brand program in the world to teach creators on how to actually grow. I think our network right now is like 50 million subscribers in terms of just our channels combined. And so if you want to learn how to become a better creator, go ahead and click the one of the links down below. So I made friends with George and Nathan, and I got really close to them. And at the time, we were all on TeamSpeak and Skype. This is really where the fun creative journey of YouTube came, because we genuinely just started learning how to become better creators, how to make better thumbnails, and how to actually do things. Now, the biggest bottleneck at the time was always editing. I think I had hired my first editor at the time. I was maybe paying him $1,500 a month. Nice thing for you though, the entire video you're watching right now is actually edited by AI. We actually just launched our own AI video editing software because, I mean, let's be honest, as you know, editing costs a lot of money and it takes a lot of time. And those are two things that I just don't really want to deal with anymore. So if you want to try AI video editing for yourself, you can get 7-day free trial right now. Go to the top link down below to the description. You can literally have AI edit your videos. At the time I had an editor and I was learning YouTube, and I just kind of did that and was trenching through that throughout the years. Now, at this point, freshman year going into high school is where I had my first big break, and I made $30,000 my very first month. This was August going into freshman year of high school. I remember it was one of the most weirdest and oddest feelings. You think I'd be jumping for joy. I think the reaction was a little tainted because I didn't really, I was obviously super stoked. It was a lot of money, but I didn't really know how to react to it. I remember showing my mom. My mom was a little bit confused as well too. She probably thought it was Monopoly money. And I just really didn't know the value of $30,000, quite frankly. Looking back though, at the time we were living in a $100,000 house and I just made $30,000 in a single month. Now for context, I live in Toronto, Canada. And if you are from Canada or you know about Canadian real estate, you would know just how much $100,000 gets you. Next to nothing. All throughout high school, I continued scaling my YouTube channel and learning the ropes in the game. Things got really fun after high school. I decided to move out. I started building a bigger team, some people that were in person. But more importantly, when the pandemic happened and everybody was shut down, that was actually our biggest time ever because everybody was at home watching videos. Every single YouTuber pretty much under the face of the earth was growing massively, and we were one of them. At that same time, we ended up doing two things. We sold a portion of our YouTube channel. We were able to raise a lot of capital in that time, but more importantly, we started our agency because the biggest bottleneck that I experienced at the very least was I always had to perform on camera, which isn't a bad thing, but something about me having to always show up and be positive and happy all the time, even when you're having a tough day, to me felt a little bit disingenuous. But because of what I was doing, I had to, and I didn't want to be reliant on my face the entire time, so we decided to launch our own media business, where essentially we take our entire production skill set, our videographers, our editors, our brains, our actual talent on YouTube, and we help do it for other businesses. Now, that company to this day is doing exceptionally well. In fact, we're just shy of $1 million a year in that business alone. So at the time, we had sold a portion of our YouTube channel where we did raise a couple $1 million there, and we started our agency, which was making about $20,000 a month in the first 2 months. Everything was fantastic. Now we're at a big crossroad. I'm this kid-friendly YouTuber that's always been making videos for the last decade. Now I'm leaning more towards a serial entrepreneur. Now, there's something that I learned about myself the last couple of years that I figured I'd like to share with everybody as well. I've found myself to be somebody that absolutely loves the business side of things. I love the struggle. I love the pain. I love the problem solving. I love being on camera as well too, but more importantly, I love being myself on camera. Not to say I'm not myself on the main channel by any means, but I am not able to talk about business on my main channel, not able to talk about strategies on my main channel. I'm really there just to entertain. And that's completely fine. There's that separation, but I wanted to find out, hey, I now have money. I now have an operation. I have a team. I have a business around me, but I want to do more. So this is where I decided, okay, we're going to lean our basket of eggs towards the agency business, but more importantly, building higher leverage stuff, which was one of them being Blueprint Premium, which is the largest creator brand program in the world, like I was mentioning earlier, but more importantly, our AI video editing software. This is something I'm not only genuinely passionate about, but it is software. If you know a thing or two about software, it is incredibly challenging. It's incredibly competitive, and it costs a lot of money to get it going. And all of these things are the things that I love going against all odds to try to make something work. I think it's a lot of fun, and that's why what keeps me going every single day. This, for me, was the big play to be able to go from that $10 million mark to the potential $1 billion mark. And the money metric isn't the thing for me. You'll notice that I don't really care about wearing a lot of Gucci. I don't really care about all the designer stuff. But what I do care about is the things that I at least appreciate. I do enjoy cars. I do like having a nice home, and I like being able to provide for my family. Those things matter the most to me, which is why my bets have to get bigger and align with that directly. Now, how did I raise all this cash throughout the last couple of years? I'll tell you straight up, being a YouTuber, one of the biggest things that a lot of creators do, especially in the beginning, is when they start making more money, their lifestyle inflates with it too. For probably 5 or 6 years, I barely spent any money at all. We were making hundreds of thousands, if not maybe $1 million, $2 million a year, give or take, and I was barely spending any of it. Yes, of course, we had expenses, we had team members, those were all covered and paid, but outside of that, there was not any Gucci, there was not any crazy lifestyle advances. Yeah, I had a car here and there, but it wasn't like I was spending every penny I had on cars or on these liabilities. So I naturally just saved up a lot of money. That was the best way to do it. I invested a lot of money, I saved up a lot of money, and that's how I got to where it is. And if you are a creator, the best thing you can do, obviously, when you start touching that paper, it is very fun. Of course it's fun. Everybody likes to make money. I'm sure you do just as much as I do. But the most important thing that you should consider is not inflating your lifestyle too early. If you can push off that feeling of, oh wow, I'm having the itch to spend some money right now, and you put it away, you invest into your business, you bet back on yourself, I promise you not only from 3 to 4 years from now, you'll have a lot more money, but more importantly, you're gonna be making a lot more money as well too, because you're now disciplined on how to go about using that money. Again, I'm a big believer in betting on yourself. I would rather spend all the money I have betting on something that I believe in the business than spending it on Gucci, quite frankly. And I know Gucci, it's more of a universal term for just stupid stuff in general. That's exactly how I went from dead broke to over $10 million all through content creation. And it's still what I do to this day. Every penny you see that is in my life and what I film and what I do is all done through content creation. If I never picked up that camera and I never begged my parents to make that YouTube channel, I would not be in the position I am today, which is why when I make these videos, I'm incredibly passionate about this because I still love creating content to this very moment. But more importantly, I want you guys to be able to take up the opportunity we have in front of us to be able to start building something for yourself. Yes, it might take time. It could take months, it could take years, it could take a decade. But the one thing I will promise you is once it does crack and once it does work, you'll look back knowing every single day that you put forth was well worth it. And if you had to do double the time, you totally would.